Lining the streets as the bodies of the mother, Shira Bibas, and her children, Ariel and Kafir, were carried to their final resting place. No government officials were in attendance. At the family's request, only invited guests could attend the funeral service itself. The president's residence in Jerusalem lit up in orange in memory of the children, whose orange hair became a symbol of the treachery of Hamas and its treatment of child hostages. Gary Baumgarten, Fox News.
On Wall Street, rising stock futures suggest gains at the opening bell after 4 straight sell-offs for the Nasdaq. I'm Dave Anthony. This is Fox News.
Lawrence County depends on WDXE News, on the air since 1951. This is The Legend. 105.3, 95.3, WDXE.
That's us, WDXE, and it's time for the Friends and Neighbor Hour, brought to you by my little company, Keller Williams Hood Company. And right across from me is Dunkin's Market, and right across from me in the studio today is Matt Dunkin of Dunkin's Market. How are you, Matt?
Doing well, Jeff.
Yeah, scoot up just a little bit there to the mic or pull it towards you. There you go. And, of course, we've looked forward to a visit with you. Matt Dunkin, of course, Dunkin's Market, a familiar name here in town and a familiar spot. Dunkin's Market's been around for how long?
The location we're in right now actually opened in 1966. That was my grandfather's first store. And my great-grandparents had a little spot, a tiny spot on the square in Lawrenceburg, and that's been almost 100 years ago.
Oh, really? So the Dunkin family's been doing it that long?
My great-grandparents, yep. And
Great.
So my grandpa and all of his brothers were basically in the produce business as well.
Yeah. Do you know their names by chance, or can you probably do? I wouldn't.
Well, my grandfather was Otis, and there was C.W. and Hobart, Hubert, Boyd, and I think there was maybe one other. But that was, there was, I think, 5 brothers total.
Yeah. Well, that's quite a legacy if you think about it.
It is. I came to find out that the way the business started was my great-grandfather was a rural mail route carrier in Phil Campbell, Alabama. And he started selling watermelons off the back of his mail truck. So that's
really?
actually how the business started.
You know, it's amazing when you think about history like that, how things kind of evolve and come to be. And so he had a little vision there. He had a mail route. And he said, what else can I do?
Right. And he and my great-grandmother, Maggie, bought a little place on the square in Lawrenceburg, Tennessee, and they opened up shop and started just selling some seeds and dry goods and produce.
That's amazing. That's totally amazing. So from there, now that would have been your grandfather.
That would be my great-grandparents.
Great-grandfather. So then, and then his son behind him was your grandfather, who is?
Otis Dunkin.
Otis. So, and then Otis, I guess, decided to expand the business.
Yeah, that's right. My grandpa was actually working for Murray, Ohio back in the 60s.
Oh, yeah.
He had a mechanic job there. He was in the Navy as a mechanic, and I believe this was during the strike when they were off work for a period of time, and my grandfather started selling some watermelons there in his front yard, which is right across the street from your office there.
Oh, that's right. Now, so that was where they were living, in that area?
Yes, there were several houses there on that lot. So.
Okay, so it wasn't always a commercial spot like it is now.
No, it's not.
I have to think about that for a second.
There was a driveway right next to the store, and the store actually sits on what was a drainage ditch at the time.
Yeah. And of course, it was all a big residential area, farm area. People farmed out. Was he selling his own produce, or did he buy, or do you know?
Now, as far as I know, I don't think Grandpa ever grown anything but a few tomato plants, just because he loved to do it.
Okay.
So he drove all over the country, from Immokalee, Florida, to North Michigan, searching for farmers to buy his produce.
Oh, really? So he was entrepreneurial.
He spent a lot of time on the road. I don't know if he would have called himself an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Back then in Lawrence County, I don't think anybody had a ton of money. So he was just trying to figure out a way to make a living and put food on the table while the factory was closed.
You have any idea, just thinking back at that time, driving and getting the produce, all that kind of stuff, you have any idea what the retail price of a watermelon might have been back then? Or
So something really cool I found just this last year, Jeff, was a photo from, I believe, the first week that our current location opened. So this would have been in '69, and it had some prices. And I'm almost ashamed to share those prices because you know what inflation has done to all of us
Oh, my
nowadays.
gosh. Yeah.
You know, I don't even want to talk about $10 watermelons, but we do guarantee those $10 watermelons.
Yeah, that's good.
However, I saw that sign, and green beans were 19 cents a pound.
19 cents a pound.
Cantaloupes were I believe it was 3 for $1. So 33 cents a cantaloupe.
Yeah.
Tomatoes, I think, were 10 cents a pound. You know, there were several other signs I can't recall, but it was almost, you know, that's what we consider change now.
Oh, my gosh,
You could
yeah.
have fed a family for a few dollars.
Oh, yeah. 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 Well, it was a different time. And, you know, it's all relative because you didn't make that much money. And so it was kind of the same, I guess, in terms of relative to each other.
Sure.
In terms of income, that kind of thing.
Didn't cost quite as much to live back then.
Didn't cost as much to live, didn't cost as much to eat. And everybody was kind of on the same playing field, pretty much, it seemed like.
That's right. There were a lot more farmers, a lot smaller farmers. So that allowed my grandfather to source produce from, you know, Tennessee, Alabama, all over the Southeast. And so you could find directly to the farmer. You kind of cut out those couple middlemen that
Right.
we have now.
Right, it's a whole different thing now, really, I guess, than it used to be. Sorry about that. My phone begins to ring, which is not bad. I'm not complaining. My phone ringing is business, so.
Yes, I understand that. In your business, if the phone is not ringing,
That's right. That's right. Your business is people pulling in and stopping in at Dunkin's Market.
That's right. That's the flowers and the plants usually bring them in.
Speaking of that, they do bring them in. But now, I guess, do you have? Well, I want to back up because I want to kind of go through the history of the store. 1969 opened up there, but it was more of a home place.
That's right.
And so they'd have like a little stand there, or did he put up some kind of little building, or do you have any memory or recollection of that?
So in 1966 is when Grandpa bought his first produce truck. So that's what I say. It was established in 1966.
Yeah.
And he just was setting up under a shade tree. I've actually got a picture at the office from '69 when the store was built, and it was just a small portion of the size of the store now, of course, surrounded by houses. But he was just selling there open in the front yard, and from what I was told, after a couple years, the nursing home, or not the nursing home, a local funeral home, not nursing home.
Yes, that's different.
Yeah, a little bit. They donated a tent. They were going to throw it away, and my grandpa was really good about repurposing things. So he set up a used tent in his front yard.
Oh, okay.
And he sat out there during the summer and the winter months, and eventually saved up enough money to build a portion of the market there.
That's interesting. So he started with really a tent. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool. We were talking about, you know, having passion for something. So he must have developed a passion for, you know, and of course, a lot of us probably just out of necessity too, like you said, trying to make a living, trying to get by.
It was, and I'd like to think it was in his blood. You know,
Yeah.
Like I said, my great grandfather and grandmother was in the business, and it's something that is in my blood as well. You know, I tell people I'm a fourth generation watermelon thumper, but I take great pleasure, Jeff, in somebody coming in and telling me, hey, that watermelon you picked out was the best I've ever had.
Yeah.
And I think that's almost like a cook. You know, when you cook a good meal, my grandmother Dunkin was the best cook. And, you'd fill your belly, and she just wanted you to hear, you know, your satisfaction.
That's
so
right. That's right.
Part of it, I think.
That's awesome.
Like
That's awesome. Now, Otis, his wife was
Rebecca.
Now, how many children did they have?
There would be 3. It'd be my dad, Herman Dunkin, my uncle, Marty Dunkin, who just passed away
Right.
at the end of last year, and my aunt, Kathy.
Well, I have known, you know, the family, especially I was good friends with your dad and Marty, and still am. I hadn't seen your dad in a while, but and Kathy now, where is she?
Kathy she lives on 7th Street.
I
Right
thought
down
she
the
was
road
here
from the
local.
store.
Yeah. But I used to poke at Herman, your dad, a lot. I think he was one of the hardest working guys I ever knew.
I think he still is, Jeff.
Still is.
Mm-hmm.
Still is. He was nonstop.
And for the most part, now that he's got his knee replacement, he's still nonstop.
Nonstop.
Yeah.
If you wanted to find Herman, you didn't have to look hard. He was at that store.
That's right.
Yeah.
And there's a reason, and I understand that now as an adult.
Yeah, it's a business that has to be tended to, isn't it?
Yeah, my dad was famous for saying, it ain't nuts and bolts, Jeff.
Yeah.
So no offense to Mike down at True Value, but, those things can sit on the shelf,
Right.
for a few months. And the produce and plants, it has to be tended through and sorted through almost every day.
Yeah, you're right. You're right, because it's organic.
Yeah, it's perishable.
And perishable. So it has to be tended to, taken care of, and a certain way. What do you think is what do you think they learned over the years about developing the business there at Dunkin's? That may be a complicated question, but any business that gets started like that, you go through the hills and valleys.
I think what I've seen from my end, Jeff, is that we have established relationships with people that we buy from.
Yeah.
I consider a lot of the farmers I buy from my friend.
Right.
And I believe my dad and my grandpa were the same way. It establishes a really good, trustworthy relationship.
Yeah.
A watermelon, when you buy it, looks the same on the outside. A good one is a bad one.
Yeah.
So if you don't know who you're buying it from, they don't know how to grow it. I think that is a lot. In my time, and I'm sure my grandpa figured out there were some farmers that are better than others.
Yeah.
And that makes a difference. And
Is there any area of the country, let's say, we're talking about watermelons, is there any area of the country that watermelons are better from?
watermelons like sandy soil.
Yeah.
So you got to go a little bit further south, at least south of Birmingham, I think, to get better watermelons. I've had some really good local watermelons, and we buy local watermelons. But there's something about that sandy soil, I think, that gives them the right moisture they need.
What about other types of fruit?
Well, the best peaches in the country, I believe, come from Chilton County, Alabama.
Okay.
So, people associate peaches with Georgia and South Carolina. And there is I call it the peach belt, runs through, I guess, south central Alabama,
Yeah.
Georgia, and South Carolina. And just like we were talking about, there are certain parts of the country that grow things better just because of their climate and their
Yeah.
soil. So,
Yeah.
those peaches.
We don't see very many pineapples grown here.
That's right. Unless it's in a greenhouse.
Unless it's in a greenhouse, that's right.
And you can't beat those Mississippi sweet potatoes, Jeff.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they come out of Vardaman, Mississippi, and folks will come in and they'll say, "What is the difference in these sweet potatoes?"
Really?
And,
Now, see, I've never heard of this. That's a new one on me.
Mississippi sweet potatoes. It's kind of like a Vidalia onion. You've heard of Vidalias?
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
There's a Vidalia, Georgia.
Yeah.
And unless you grow that onion within that area of Georgia, then you can't call it a Vidalia.
Oh, really?
And
I thought that was a particular variety.
it's not. It's just a sweet onion.
It's a location.
It's the location.
Well, see, I thought I learned something there. I thought a Vidalia onion was a particular type of onion.
That's not correct.
But it's a location.
It has to do with where it is. Yeah.
How
Where it's
about
grown.
that? How about what
So
about
you can grow a sweet onion in Tennessee that might taste like a Vidalia, but you technically can't call it a Vidalia onion.
how about that? I learned something there. That's pretty cool. What about peanuts?
Peanuts, I think the best peanuts are the Valencia peanuts. They're the small, like red skin peanuts.
Yeah.
So they only grow in New Mexico, Texas.
Okay.
And we source Virginia peanuts as well. They call that a jumbo peanut. But our customers that cooks and make brittle, those Valencia, they call them a Spanish peanut. They
Yeah,
have
the little red skin.
a richer flavor.
They are good. They are good. You guys keep those sometimes in a little warmer up there by the
We do. We
cash
keep,
register.
we
Those-
keep that year round. Yeah,
And do you prepare those?
we do. Now, what you're talking about, I think, are the deep fried.
The
peanuts.
deep fried. That's what I was wanting to ask him.
Yes, yeah, we do. We deep fry those peanuts.
Those
In
are-
the South, we can figure out
Those are so.
a way to deep fry almost anything.
A little deep fried peanut with some salt. They're pretty good.
Yeah, it's a pretty good snack, Jeff.
Now, are they? They're hulled, I guess,
Right.
before you deep fry them.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
so we get peanuts that are already shelled, and we get them in the shell.
Yeah.
We have roasted, salted, Cajun, fried, boiled, however you want your peanuts.
I have had good boiled peanuts, and I've had boiled peanuts that were not so good.
That is a perfection, an
Yeah.
art there, cooking boiled peanuts.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a clue how to start doing that, but I have had some that I thought were just fantastic, and I've had some that I'm like, oh my, that's not good at all.
Right. And it could have something to do with the peanuts too,
Yeah.
Jeff.
Oh yeah, could be, could be. Now, are the ball peanuts? They're not necessarily the redskin peanuts, though, are they?
Not always. It's usually best to use a green peanut. So when you pick a peanut out of the ground, it's considered green. And of course, there's dry raw peanuts. They've been dried.
Okay.
So most farmers, like our local Amish, they'll pull up their peanuts and they'll lay them out in their greenhouse for a few weeks to let them dry out.
Yeah.
And when they're green, they'll mold. But the best boiled peanuts are those fresh green ones.
You've learned a lot over the years of this stuff, haven't you?
Yes, sir.
Of course, you grew up in it.
I did.
You totally grew up there.
I've got pictures of me in a baby seat on the pumpkins out there. I think I was just a few months old out.
Yeah. Dunkin's has become just an icon, an iconic store here in Lawrenceburg. And like I told you earlier, I use it a lot of times to tell people where I'm located, because I'll say, you know where Dunkin's is? Oh, yeah, they know where Dunkin's is. So everybody kind of knows where Dunkin's is, in that middle of town, middle of the strip. You can go anywhere from Dunkin's Market.
Yep, and that's humbling to hear you say that, Jeff. I know that,
Yeah.
And I give credit to my parents, my grandparents, and my great-grandparents for laying that foundation that I'm grateful for every
You
day.
guys have expanded over the years. We got a phone call. Miss Peggy, she likes to chime in and ask questions, and you may not be able to hear her unless you hold up the headphones there for a second, okay? Hey, good morning, Miss Peggy. Well, she hung up. I was going to let you talk to us. I don't know if I cut her off or she hung up. Maybe she'll call back. She may have a question about stuff. She has lots of questions and sometimes interesting points. I was going to ask you about the variety, because, well, here she is. Maybe we got her this time. Hey, good morning. You there?
Yes, they have the best sweet potatoes, and I have bought them in other stores here, and sometimes they look good, but they've got little dark places in them. I've never bought anything at Dunkin's that I can remember I had a problem with, and their peanuts are. But something before it's over today you would get to is his daughter at the cash register. I cannot believe how young she is and how well she does, and it's kind of like you and your son. But and also, I'd like to know how much of his business comes from tourism. I don't buy a lot there, but I like to talk to the people going out, and it's amazing to me how many people shop there, maybe that are referred, maybe for the Amish or the parks or something, but they're just from other places.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Peggy. Very good. I'll let you elaborate on that. First of all, your daughter. She's talking about.
First of all, I recognize that voice. Hey, Miss Peggy, she is a good customer. I see her about once a week at least.
Okay, good.
Yeah, my daughter, Grace Ann, she would be the 5th generation cashier. At 9 years old, you can come in any given day when she is there, and a lot of times she's running the front of the store.
How about that?
Folks will come in and see there's a 9-year-old and no adults, and they kind of look around, and she says, "How can I help you?"
Yeah.
And she'll answer the phone, and I've heard her tell people, "No, well, we have pecans, just not new crop yet."
Yes.
Just the maturity of her and the understanding is, like Miss Peggy said, it's quite unbelievable.
That's good. That's good. That's good. Well, she mentioned the sweet potatoes that you talked about.
She did. So there's a verification.
And
I'm not just trying to sell you
where are
sweet
they
potatoes.
from?
Mississippi, Vardaman, Mississippi.
Vardaman, Mississippi. Cool. Cool deal. And you do say you have some local produce. Now, she had a question about the local folks versus, do you get a lot of out-of-town folks?
We do. Jeff, growing up in Lawrenceburg, I never thought we had tourism. But I didn't spend a lot of time in Amish country growing up.
Yeah.
Now I do.
Yeah.
I buy a lot from the Amish, and I consider a lot of them my friends. So we have a tremendous amount of people that come up Highway 43 from all over. Well, we call it Alabama Saturdays because they have to pass our market to go to Etheridge. But,
Right.
Just as a nature of the type of business we have, and maybe they have heard from word of mouth that we're there. They stop in whatever state they're coming from. They'll stop in the store, then they go up to Amish country and spend a day. So we have a lot of tourism here.
Yeah, yeah. Well, if you, as much as you want to, give us a little bit of your personal upbringing and history, and how you got to be where you're doing right now.
And just to back up a minute, Jeff.
Yeah.
The other hand of that are our local customers.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I have customers that come in that tell me they remembered when my grandpa opened the store.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, I've never bought sweet potatoes anywhere else. And that's, to me, that's very humbling. And it might show me that we've been doing something right over the years.
Yeah.
If we have customers that came in. One of the coolest stories, Jeff, that I always like to share is I'll have adults come in. And back in the day, as you know, everybody had charge accounts everywhere. The hardware store, maybe the pharmacy, the
Yeah.
produce market.
Yeah.
You just come in and you charge it to your family at the end of
Oh,
the
I
month.
remember that. Yeah.
And so I have adults come in now and say, you know what, Matt, your grandpa and your grandma were really good people. And one time my mom lost my job or dad got sick or whatever the reason was, they couldn't pay their bill.
Right.
And on certain occasions, my grandparents would forgive those bills. And I've had countless amounts of people to come up to me and say, you know, that was really important for us in our time. Because they were neighbors, you know, everybody was all together. And that just showed me that my grandfather was not about the money. You know, he was more for making sure people were provided for.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we all have to have some money, you know, to get by in our system. You pretty much have to have some money to do what you do. But it's not all about money. It's about relationships too.
Right. Well, and that comes back to that passion thing you said earlier through your quote. You know, with passion, then you'll be successful if you really love something you're doing.
I learned a long time ago from someone who helped me get started in the real estate business. Excuse me. Turn that mic off while I do that. He told me if you will take care of your customers, the money will take care of itself. And I've tried to remember that a long, and it has worked out every time. And I don't have to worry about that. I worry about taking care of what we take care of, just like you're talking about. Mm-hmm. Taking care of the business that you're in and doing a good job with it and giving a good service. Those are the things that count. And that's been evident over the years at Dunkin's Market.
Yeah, and it's like I said, it's humbling to hear those experiences.
Yeah.
So as far as my story, you were asking how I got to where I'm at.
Yeah, you grew up there, and your dad, I'm sure, was a slave driver.
You hit the nail on the head right there, Jeff.
I'm saying that just because of simple observation.
Yes.
I would say it was very hard to keep up with him.
He taught a lot of young men how to a good work ethic.
Yeah, total
including
good
myself.
work ethic. Yeah. Yeah.
And at the time, you know, I think I started when I was in 7th grade. I'd come in after school, and I'd come in during the summers.
Yeah.
And all the way through college, I did that. Didn't have a choice. I told people I never put in a employment application. And at the time, you know, when I get out of school, my buddies were going and having fun and whatever, and I'd go to work, and it might not have been the best for a teenager, but now as an adult, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's why you'll see my teenage boys down there working, you know, getting that.
Yeah. How many children you have now?
We have 3.
Have 3.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about those.
We got Grace Ann. We talked about the 9-year-old, and we have twin boys that are 13.
Yeah, I see them out there working, and that's that's such a great tradition to have with your family.
It is, and it's a beautiful way to spend time with my kids. You know, show them the value of a dollar, and you know, it's just we're blessed to be able to have that environment where they can hang out, and not every profession is like that.
Folks, today our guest is Matt Dunkin of Dunkin's Market, and of course, most of us have been long time familiar with Dunkin's Market here, and Matt, tell me about the ebb and flow of the way you're doing the business now, because you're not open all the time.
That's right.
And so what's the theory behind that as far as how you're doing it?
I'm glad you asked that, Jeff. I get that question all the time.
Yeah.
So when I was growing up, the store was open, I believe, 363 days out of the year. So that would be my grandmother. Christmas and New Year's, I believe, were the only 2 days they actually closed down a full day.
Yeah.
So it's probably been 8-10 years ago my dad started closing on Sundays.
Yeah.
Which I appreciate, allows our employees to go to church and have some good time with their family. So when I took over, Jeff, I have a background in accounting. So I approached this from a business standpoint.
Sure.
And so I noticed that in January and February, there's not a whole lot to sell. We're a very seasonal business.
Yeah.
And so with the cost of produce in the wintertime, just decided to close the doors and to not take that time in.
Yeah.
And it's allowed us, we homeschool our kids, it's allowed us some time with our kids.
Yeah.
slow down the pace of life. And as you mentioned, Dad would probably admit he got a little burnt out sometimes by working the 300 days a year. And so just trying to have a better balance, and the seasonality of our business just works out well for that.
Well, it makes sense to think about it that way because there is, I guess, a slowdown in produce during those months. And then it starts ramping up this time of year, and you're about ready to open.
That's right. So right now, Florida produce starts coming in. So during the winter, mostly you're going to have overseas produce, which has gotten very expensive and not the top quality stuff that we grow here in the States. So starting in March, you've got your fresh Florida produce coming in, everything from tomatoes to fresh sweet corn. Yeah. And I tell people it gets closer to home every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as the
Do you supply any commercial needs or just mostly regular retail?
We do. We have some wholesale businesses, and we've reached out to some of our new restaurants. We've got a lot more restaurants in town.
Yeah, the restaurant business is kind of thriving here right now.
Yeah, so we have a wholesale business. We have a few smaller markets that we help supply, and
that's interesting because I think, years past, I remember that being at least a part of the business.
Yeah, and we actually source a lot of things for the Amish. Just this week, I've been delivering seed potatoes in Etheridge. So they put a lot of food in the ground up there in Etheridge, Jeff.
They do.
And I think if we had to survive in Lawrence County, then we're blessed to have our Amish neighbors with the amount of food they produce.
Well, I thought about that myself. There's a lot of what I call the doomsdayer people, and who think that if there could be some economic collapse on the horizon, that kind of thing. God forbid. Mm-hmm. But I've had that same thought. If it did happen, we live in a pretty good area to survive.
Yeah, I think they call those people preppers, right?
Preppers.
Yeah. Well, the Amish have been preparing for a long time, Jeff.
They've always been preppers, haven't they?
Yes, sir.
They've always been preppers. That's right. They have a good way about them as far as that kind of stuff goes. I was passing through that area of the country yesterday, and they're already turning. I mean, they're turning, plowing, getting it ready.
That's right. The fields are turned, and they're ready to plant onions and taters.
Yeah. I was, I don't know, you may know one of my friends, of course, the Yoders. Roman Yoder is well known among some of the Amish and among even the English, as they call us. I was talking with one of his kids one day. We were up there. I think we were buying some tomatoes from him one time up there. One of his sons is my backdoor neighbor. So anyway, we were up there, and my wife was going to buy some tomatoes because we were visiting with them. And she made the comment that we have a hard time growing tomatoes, having any luck growing tomatoes. I'm not a gardener by any stretch. And the little boy looked at her and said, in total puzzlement, he looked at her and went, "They grow like weeds." Like, what do you mean you have trouble growing tomatoes? It's like, what do you mean you have trouble growing tomatoes? They grow like weeds.
I think that's about perspective there, Jeff. And they have certainly a different perspective than you and I.
So we've laughed about that for several years now. They grow like weeds. What are you talking about? So anyway, and I forget how many thousand tomato plants he'd planted that year. And I'm talking about thousands. Mm-hmm. And I was blown away. And, of course, they supply, places like you and others to do that. I don't think they're doing it now, but they did at that time. So very interesting, very interesting. What do you think what are the biggest challenges to doing what you're doing?
Well, I believe people don't, the lifestyle, people don't cook as much as they used to.
Okay.
Used to people would buy items in bulk, 50-pound boxes of potatoes and cases of apples. And, I'm guilty of the same thing, getting a week's worth of groceries or picking up your day's worth of groceries. So I think that has changed a lot,
We are very much, I agree with you. We don't do a lot of cooking like we used to.
Well, and you look up and down our highway, like I said about the restaurants, there's lots of options,
Yeah. We should. I think it's better for us to eat the fresher, better stuff. I read about health, and you can't tell by looking at me, but I read about the health stuff all the time. It's one of those things that I know I should do but don't. And everything that you read about being healthy talks about eating fresh, whole foods.
That's right, Jeff. They tell you to stick to the outer the outer aisles of the grocery store. So I like to tell people that we are the outer aisles.
That's right. Your whole store is the outer aisle.
That's right.
Fresh, whole foods, organic, sometimes foods. What about other products besides produce?
So we carry also local meats, beef, chicken, eggs. We have grocery items. Of course, we've gotten the laws have changed, so we can carry locally produced jellies, pickles, and at one point in time, you had to have certifications to put those things in a place like ours.
Yeah.
They had this in Tennessee, the Food Freedom Act, I think is what they called it, passed a couple years ago. So, Jeff, if you had a really good recipe for salsa or hot sauce and you wanted to market it, well, some years ago, the government would tell you couldn't do that because you needed to have it inspected.
Yeah.
So now they've passed this Food Freedom Act that allows you to sell your product without getting unnecessary inspections.
A little less regulation now.
That's right, yeah.
For those of us who are like-minded, we like that.
Yes.
Less regulation, less government interference.
I think the best we can do just in Lawrence County on our own would be better.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. Talking about the challenges there in less cooking, how do we turn the table on that, Matt?
Jeff, I think the tables are already turning.
Do you think?
I think that they are.
Yeah.
I think there are a couple things that are turning. The main thing is, well, like you said, there's more information out there. There's information about what to eat and what produce benefits what organ and whatever health issue you might be dealing with.
Yeah.
But I think the cost of food itself are making people think about planting gardens. And Jeff, I may need to consult your wife about tomato plants, but tomato plants are pretty prolific. They do, I wouldn't say they grow like weeds like the young Yoder boy says, but if you put it in some good soil, you're going to have more tomatoes than you and your neighbors and everybody else is going to be able to eat.
You make it sound so easy.
Well, I think that young Yoder boy might have been hiding some of his tricks from you because you can't just throw it in any soil and hope for it to grow.
Oh, okay.
You got to have some good soil to put those tomatoes in.
I've tried several different things, and I'll run a couple of these by you. Years and years ago, I heard you could grow tomatoes in a bale of straw. And so I tried that, and that didn't work. You could just stick your tomato plant down in a bale of straw and keep it watered, blah, 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 and it would grow. That didn't work too well, not too well. So then I decided I would grow them in these, in later years, I decided I'd grow in some tubs, which a lot of people can do and do well, but mine did not. Found out I think I put them in too much, I had them in too much of a shaded area. They didn't get enough sun. And they would, even though I had really bushy, green, great-looking plants, not many tomatoes. And then when they did have one, they'd get a rotten spot on the bottom of the top. It would start, it would
Blossom rot.
Blossom rot. Yeah, that's what it was. So anyway, I finally decided that I just wasn't good at it.
Well, all of us have our passions and our talents, and I'd probably not be very good at selling real estate, Jeff.
No, you might. But no, I just decided, you know what? I think I'm better off just to buy a tomato from somebody that really knows how to grow them, or somebody that's got good ones in their store like you.
And we're okay with that.
You're okay with that?
Yes, sir.
They're good. That's the way for me.
But I do think that, I was talking about the trend of going back to where we're going. In the real estate business as much as anyone, we have people moving here from all over.
Yeah.
And a lot of those folks are looking for just a couple acres or a few acres, and they want to do what people are calling homesteading.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And, we talk about the Amish, they don't call it homesteaded, they call that living.
Yeah.
But what a lot of people are finding is they can produce a little bit of meat and a little bit of vegetables, and that they can significantly cut their grocery costs down, and that they can essentially live off their land. And we have relatively affordable land here in Lawrence County, so that allows them an opportunity to come by, and then they put down their stakes. And
Yeah.
you know, I think the more and more we all start growing a little bit, then the more sufficient our community becomes.
You know, that's a pretty awesome thought to have, and you're right. There is a movement and an awareness now of the produce. What am I trying to say? The preservatives and things that are in our foods, packaged foods or processed is what I'm trying to say. Processed foods that are not necessarily healthy for you.
And not only that, Jeff, but the nutrient density.
Yeah.
So not only the counter effects of commercially grown produce, but there's more nutrients and more beneficial everything inside of locally grown produce and locally raised chickens, eggs even.
Yeah, yeah. Eggs have been on the radar lately. What can you tell us about your local eggs?
Well, I can tell you that the Amish are still selling their eggs for the same price as they were before all this nonsense.
Yeah.
So we do source our local eggs. We have a local farmer that has non-GMO feed, take real good care of their birds.
Yeah, that's good. And you've got beef?
Yes, we do.
Locally grown organic beef.
That's right. Comes from Piney Branch Livestock. That's the Harris family.
Yeah, I know those folks very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you can walk in your store and buy the good stuff.
Well, and we also have the deep fried peanuts too, Jeff.
Well, those are good.
That's right.
They're good. They're organic.
Originally.
Salt and everything. Yeah. That's okay. Listen, y'all have always been fascinated too at the variety of good candy. Now, I know it's not healthy to eat a lot of candy. But do you still carry some good old-fashioned type candies and things like that?
We do. We actually call it old-fashioned Christmas candy.
Yeah.
You know, during the winter season, right after Halloween and pumpkin season, we get our Christmas candy in, which a lot of people remember since they were a kid. You know, the old orange slices, and cream drops, and coconut bonbons.
Yeah, all that's good stuff, I guess.
The stuff that probably we used to just get for Christmas. That was your Christmas gift, with some nuts and an orange and an apple.
You know, thinking back now, I don't know if you still have them or not, but when I was a kid, my grandmother, I remember being in Dunkin's Market with my grandmother. And she always liked to buy, there were these big coconut, is that what you call them, bonbons? Sometimes they were pink, sometimes they were chocolate or whatever. They were different colors, and they were big. They were almost half as big as a baseball, and full of coconut. Still,
I remember those.
You remember
I don't
those?
know what happened to those giant coconut bonbons.
I haven't seen those in a while, but it just brought back a flash memory there. But they were there then, you know, back then. Things change, you know. People's tastes have changed and all that kind of stuff. But you still got some of those old traditional candies.
That's right.
And in bulk, you can buy in bulk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, everything we sell on our shelves, you can buy a case of. You know, we sell 50 pounds of potatoes, $25. You know, so
wow.
If you got a family and you want to eat at a relatively cheap price, we can help you.
You know, that's pretty amazing, really. And if people want to find a way to save, and they're willing to put a little effort in their cooking, you can save a tremendous amount. I know how much we spend on eating out, and we're running all the time, and just out of convenience, you know, we do what everybody does, and not cook at home. Now Teresa's pretty good at it. She does make, you know, dinners and what have you. But for a lot of us, the lifestyle is just not what it should be when it comes to good health and that kind of thing. I'm amazed too. You're right. There's people that are coming here. I had a call yesterday. Family coming from California, or considering coming. They're not here yet, but they were looking for exactly what you're talking about. They want a place where they can grow their own, and that you're seeing that more and more and more.
Right, and then Lawrence County is a good place for that. We've got plenty of water.
Yeah, I need to tell them about Dunkin's Market because you've got all the seeds, you've got all the stuff to help someone do that.
Yeah, we can help them get started on their homesteading
And you've got beyond the produce and stuff too. Now you used to have, or still do probably have, a lot of landscape type things and things for your home. Other things you've got. I was trying to think. You've got some concrete pieces. You've got pieces out in the yard. You've got straw. You got all that stuff that you may need around the house.
Yeah, we try to take care of pretty much you want to do out in your yard or your garden. We carry bulk mulch and sand,
That's
all
right.
sorts of rock, river rock, pea gravel. Our mushroom compost is really popular. If you want to grow tomatoes, Jeff, you need to get you some mushroom compost.
Okay.
Okay, we can start with that, and then maybe some other tips. Tomatoes like a lot of space, so the more roots that they have to spread out is the best. Here in a couple weeks, we're going to have all the flowers that bring, I guess, I say that people are like bees when those flowers get out. And even if you're not a flower person that plants, it's just, you know, it's an attractive place to come. So,
Oh, yeah.
and we've got some really nice, high-quality, freeze-proof pottery that we keep in stock.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it really gets pretty over there when all the stuff starts coming in.
You said it, pretty. That is a word that I hear more at my job than anywhere I've ever been.
Yeah.
Oh, pretty. And that's a nice word to hear.
It
you
is.
know.
Yeah, well, it looks pretty. I mean, and when all that stuff gets in and you guys are doing all that you do over there, when you pass by and you see all those colors and all that stuff out there, it's just
Well, let me tell you something, Jeff.
it calls you. It makes you want to go in there.
Well, the reason it is because that's the hand of our Creator. I tell people our only responsibility in those flowers is watering them once they arrive.
Yeah.
And we do show them a little love as well. But those flowers just point to the beauty of Earth. You
Yeah.
know, all the different colors, all the different varieties. None of us came up with any of that. God
God's
put
creation.
all of that beautiful stuff here for us to enjoy.
Yeah, yeah. And you guys do a good job of displaying it where you can see it, and it just makes you want to get a hold of it. And my wife has window boxes, and seasonally every year we will be, I promise you, we'll be there picking out our flowers, or her picking out her flowers to put in the window boxes. And because she changes them out with the seasons and all that kind of stuff. And it's about time. What are you opening? Let's talk about that. You
Next week, that's Tuesday.
You're
March
kidding,
the 4th.
next week?
Yes, sir.
Next week is on what, Tuesday?
Yep.
Tuesday, March the 4th is opening day at Dunkin's. And what can we expect to see there then?
Well, we'll have all the fresh produce coming in. As close as we can get is Florida right now. And we will have our fruit trees. We'll have our cold crop vegetable plants. So if you want to plant broccoli or cabbage or lettuce, this is now a good time to put that in.
Yeah.
You can go ahead and plant your seed potatoes and your onions. And
Oh, wow.
we have all of our seeds. We have them packaged. We package those by hand and get those ready for everything from asparagus to zucchini. That's A to Z.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You mentioned earlier some of the locally produced stuff, but also the locally made stuff, such as the jams or jellies or pickles and things like that. Y'all got a good variety of that stuff.
We do, and we source it all locally.
Yeah. What about honey?
We have local honey. We have 3 different local honey suppliers.
And I knew that without asking. So,
Right.
but yeah, you got 3 different local, and they say there's something beneficial to local honey rather than honey that's from somewhere else. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, there have definitely been studies and findings on, well, honey is anti-inflammatory, it's antimicrobial, and it basically helps your body with inflammation, and that is a good way to ward off any sort of disease or infection.
Sure.
But as far as your local pollination benefits, you know, if you have raw honey, which has not been processed or heated to a certain temperature, you get those local pollens that the bees have been bringing in on their feet when they make the honey. And so that essentially builds an immunity, Jeff. It's kind of like taking a small dose of it.
Is it supposed to help with allergies?
With allergies, that's right. Yes, seasonal allergies.
Seasonal allergies. If you use local honey, there's some studies that support that idea.
Yeah, and I would say a good majority of our local honey customers use it for their seasonal allergies.
Interesting. Well, besides the fact that it's just really good.
Right. Oh, I put it in my coffee every morning.
Do you really? Yeah, it's good. I tend to use too much of it if I got it, but it's good. But a little spoonful will do you. By the way, is there anything to this? I heard not to use a metal spoon with your honey, that it does something, takes something away from it.
Wow,
Have you ever heard anything like that?
I'm going to have to research that, Jeff. I've never heard
I'm
that.
serious. Not too long ago, I heard something about it, that it has some kind of reaction, and to not use a metal spoon with your honey. And I may be wrong about that. Somebody else can tell me something. I don't know, but it seems like I heard something about that. So I don't know. Something else that's really good. It's not time for it yet, but corn on the cob.
Now we actually will have corn on the cob. The sweet corn comes in from Florida this time.
Really? So we can have some fresh corn.
You can have fresh sweet corn in
Ooh,
March.
maybe we should go through what you're going to have a little bit. So we got, because I wasn't expecting that. Some fresh corn on the cob.
Oh yeah, we'll have vine ripe tomatoes. If
Really?
anybody's craving a nice mater sandwich this winter, then we can hook you up with that.
So we're going to have tomatoes and corn, really?
Oh yeah, we'll have. Florida's got their, of course, fresh Florida strawberries are in full swing right now.
Oh man, yeah.
We've got a good source of those. You'll have all of your zucchini and squash. Basically anything you could grow in Tennessee in the summer, you can grow in South Florida right now.
Well, I am going to plan a visit there and load up on some squash and tomatoes and corn and tell Teresa to cook them. You think that'll work?
Maybe you should just ask her to cook.
Oh, maybe I should. Maybe I should. That's a better plan. I'll ask her if she would. Nothing much better than fried squash and some fresh corn on the cob and a tomato.
I'm with you.
With
Maybe just that sliced tomato, Jeff.
yeah, just a good sliced tomato. And I loved, we've had events in here in the radio station where we have had tomato sandwich day, especially when they start getting ripe here locally.
yeah.
We have those good ripe tomatoes that somebody's grown besides me, and and we have a tomato sandwich in here. So
Yeah.
we have to we'll have you in here for that.
Oh yeah, white bread, mayonnaise, salt and pepper.
yeah.
That's all we need.
Oh my gosh, yeah, good tomato sandwich. No, you can't beat it. Matt Dunkin is here, everybody, from Dunkin's Market, and of course, I want you to give our best to all your family, Herman and all of them. Hadn't seen Herman in a while, so you guys are busy getting ready for the season.
That's right.
And I see you out there working, and all of your kids and everybody that's working for you out there getting ready for what's coming. And we look forward to seeing that market just explode with color and all those other things.
We're looking forward to having all our customers.
Now, you
back.
still have some fish?
No, we don't carry any fish.
Now, a long time ago, you had those.
They were maybe frozen fillets.
No. I'm talking about the like for the ponds.
Oh yeah, the live fish.
The live fish.
Yeah. No.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, we got out of the fish pond business.
Yeah. There's a lot of people really got into that for a while.
Yeah.
What do they call the koi?
Right. Yeah,
Koi fish.
And the big goldfish.
Yeah, and there was a lot of supplies there for that as
right.
well. But anyway, the reason I was asking that, going to mention that, is I had people that did that, and they had trouble with owls or birds getting their fish. You ever hear that around here?
No, I have not.
Yeah. Anyway, they will do it. Unless you got some way for them fish to hide in there, they'll get got. A buddy of mine had one of those ponds, and he said his got raided by, he thought an owl would get all his fish.
I guess that's like fish in a barrel.
That's right, fish in a barrel. So not a good thing, not a good thing. But a lot of things for your home, around your home, bird seed.
Yeah, we carry bird seed. Yeah.
Yeah, you carry birds, a lot of bird feed. My wife feeds birds and got bird seed, all that stuff. So Dunkin's Market opening up this coming Tuesday. What else can you share with us before we have to go? We've got just a few minutes left. We got to before we go out of here at 9 o'clock.
Well, I guess maybe one thing I wanted to share that we added just a couple years ago is we have locally grown vegetable plants and herbs. Like we said, we're trying to source things locally, so we're trying to get things that are grown by our local farmers. So if you come down and you'll see our tomatoes, peppers, and even the broccoli and cold crop things I mentioned earlier, they're all grown locally with no chemicals, non-GMO, so there's not a lot of places you can find plants like that.
Yeah, now you say plants.
Mm-hmm.
So these are plants that are up and ready to plant in your garden.
Yeah, that's right. So we sell the seeds if you want to start your own plants, but these are starts. So that's where we're or someone else has started those seeds for you. So
Yeah.
tomato plants are one thing. It's kind of hard to grow from seed, so a lot of people like that.
Oh, sure.
Already started plant. Peppers and watermelons and squash and all that stuff.
What time of is it? It's a little early yet to actually plant, is it?
The only thing you could plant right now are going to be onions, potatoes, and what we call cold crop. So like broccoli, lettuce, cabbage, those things that'll tolerate a little frost. So we're really not in the clear to about middle of April here, and as far as the frost line.
Right. All right. Well, good deal. That's what you get for not knowing, and you can know if you want to start gardening, or maybe you've got questions regarding your garden and how and when to plant. I'm gonna pick your brain about growing some tomatoes. I think I tried to make it too hard.
We're going to have you growing the best tomatoes you've ever had this year, Jeff.
You promise?
I might have to oversee it a little bit, but yes.
I'm going to take you up on it. I've always wanted to get to a place where I could grow a good tomato. So now I've got a secret weapon, which is you. That's going to be it. And I may just forego the whole thing and just buy them from your store altogether anyway, which will be fine.
Well, and
I can tell people I grew them.
You can do either way you want with that, Jeff. But you got a couple of options.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to it. You can get your plants, you can get your flowers, you can get multiple and locally grown stuff too from Dunkin's Market. Matt, I appreciate you being here, sharing a little history of the store with us too, and a little of your history. You and your family have been a part of Lawrenceburg and Lawrence County for 5 generations now.
That's right.
5 generations. Do you know where they came from, or where your great grandfather was before Lawrence County?
Yeah, I believe it was Phil Campbell, Alabama.
You told me that.
Yep. So just in North Alabama there.
Okay. And so they landed up here. Awesome. Good. Awesome. Like a lot of folks, your grandfather worked at Murray. We all were connected to Murray one way or another in the Murray days, and started in his yard.
And I believe that was probably the only traffic coming down Highway 43, which was a 2-lane at the time. Was that Murray factory traffic, and I think that probably helped build the business.
So the business has been there where at its current location since 1969.
1969 was when the building was built. He started with the produce in the front yard in 66.
66. That's right. Good deal. I started to call you Herman.
Well, I am Matthew Herman.
Matthew Herman. All right. Matt Dunkin, everybody from Dunkin's Market, we appreciate you being here this morning, buddy.
Thanks for having us, Jeff, and I'm just thankful to God to be in the place that I'm at. This is a great community, and it's a great business to be involved with, and we appreciate all of our customers.
All right, man. Thank you, buddy. We'll see you next time. See if I can get...
This is WDXE, W287AA, and W237FD Lawrenceburg. Broadcast services of Prospect Communications.
Referencing the meeting being planned between President Trump and Russian leader Vladimir Putin as the U.S. negotiates with both sides trying to end the war. And as part of that, Zelensky might